Hey everyone, my name is Carlos. I'm the founder and CEO of Product School, and today I'm here with the VP of Product at Fiverr, Liron, Markus. Hello.
Hey, thank you for
Thanks.
having me.
Thank you for joining us. Fun to see your dark background. It's early in the morning here in San Francisco. It's late in the evening in Israel, right?
Yeah, Tel Aviv.
Beautiful. Well, I would love to learn more about your own personal journey. I see on your LinkedIn profile that you started in product before it was cool. So why don't you tell us a little more about your journey?
That's right. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Israel. And just like any other Israeli kid, after high school, I joined the military. I joined the intelligence corps. I served as an intelligence researcher for 2 years. And after that, I started my undergrad studies. And I liked math and I liked science. So I double majored in mathematics and computer science. And when I graduated, I started my first role in cybersecurity in one of the banks in Israel, the largest bank in Israel. And that's where I realized I probably wasn't meant to be a software engineer. I mean, it was a cool environment, and the people were super smart, but every time I felt like everything is going on around the how should we implement this, and how should we make this process more secure, and how should we make it more scalable. And I started feeling more and more that there is an entire process that happens before that I wasn't part of. And so I didn't know exactly what was the job that I was looking for, but I knew there is something there. So, I decided to pursue an MBA. I thought this will get me into the business side behind the technology industry, and it might open up new opportunities for me. So, I applied for a few business schools and I accepted an offer from MIT Sloan. And I quit my job, packed my bags, and moved to Boston with my daughter and husband. So started Sloan. School experience was amazing. I highly recommend it to anyone who is interested in leadership, in management, in entrepreneurship. And I was drawn into product. It was interesting to see the merge between a business need and a technology to build something, create something that adds value. I found it fascinating. And so I graduated in 2009. And I don't know if you remember, but but 2009, we were at the bottom of a pretty bad recession. So it took me a few good months and a lot of persistence, but I ended up joining Nokia as a product manager. And this is where I did my internship during my MBA. And this is how my product management career started. Since then, I spent 8 years in Boston, where I managed products and lead product teams in different organizations, big and small, B2B and B2C, startups and public companies like LogMeIn. And 3 years ago, we moved back to Tel Aviv, me, my husband, and the kids. And I joined this amazing company called Fiverr. And that's where I am since then.
Well, I was telling you off camera that I've been a customer of Fiverr since 2012, I think. So for the folks who don't know about it, why don't you tell us a bit more about Fiverr and what's so unique about it?
So yeah, I mean, kudos to you for being a loyal customer since almost the beginning. And I love those early adopters. So Fiverr, for those who don't know, is a marketplace connecting between, it's a global marketplace connecting between freelancers and businesses of all sizes for digital services. Things like, I don't know what you purchased on Fiverr. Maybe you can tell us.
Oh my God, the first service, I think it was some graphics for social media.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
nice.
but I've used it for many other things. Most recently, I hired a translator for my book.
That's awesome. So things like digital marketing and translation and logo design, programming and tag, all those you can find on Fiverr. And there are some other, things that you can find online that you wouldn't normally think that you can find them online. Things like music production or legal advice. So this is Fiverr, and our marketplace approach is pretty unique. We call it service as a product. We productize the way you sell and buy services. And I can give you an example. If in the past, when I needed a new logo for my company, what I would do is I would contact my professional network. I would ask them if anybody knows any logo designer, any good one. I'll get a list of a few. Maybe I'll talk with them. Maybe we'll meet in a coffee shop. We'll go over their portfolio. I'll connect to a few. We'll drink more coffee and we'll negotiate the contract and so on and so on. But on Fiverr, purchasing a service is like purchasing something on Amazon, right? We productize the way it works. On the seller side, all you need to do is to set what you're offering, how much time it's going to take you to deliver, and the asking price. And on the buyer side, you browse, you search, you go through a list of, we call them gigs. You find what you like. Maybe you compare prices, maybe you look at the reviews. And once you find what you like, you click order, you pay, and you're done. This is pretty amazing. So, we started 11 years ago, and we started with $5 gigs, and hence the name Fiverr. But today you can find on our platform gigs that cost $10,000 and above. And we were talking about a logo designer for my company. So you can find designers like Rob Janoff, the designer who designed the Apple logo, and you can order his service in a click of a button. That's pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool. And it's a marketplace, which it's a very specific type of product, right? You technically don't fully own the supply. You are in between connecting supply and demand. So are there any specific considerations that you need to keep in mind as a product manager when building a marketplace instead of a SaaS product or other types of products?
Yeah, of course. So, every product have customers, and when you build features, they will impact your customers. But on marketplace, especially two-sided marketplace, you have two types of customers, and we call them buyers and sellers. And by the way, there is no clear distinction between them. But when you build a feature, it will influence both. I mean, you can build a feature for the seller side and it will influence the buyer side. You can build a feature for the buyer and it will influence the seller. But, and this is the difference, it will also influence the interaction between them. So, for example, one of the first things that you need to decide is what is the level of control you want to have on your marketplace. And if you look at the Apple App Store, that's a heavily regulated marketplace, and Apple reviews each and every application on the App Store. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have companies like eBay or Craigslist, where you can pretty much post anything that you want. I mean, one is not better than the other, but one is serving different purposes for their customers. And at Fiverr, we do a lot of things that will influence the product and the quality. And we do it either through product or through the supply team or through customer care. And I'll give you an example. When we wanted to improve the quality and not hurt the control, what we did is we look at first-time buyers. And those are the most important buyers to our marketplace, right? Because it's their first time and it's the first impression. What we did is we told our sellers, hey, look, this is a first-time buyer. Please take them by hand and please be over communicating with them because it's important. And we really saw the impact of what it did. So I would say that building a marketplace adds a layer, maybe a few layers of complexity to our product team on a day-to-day basis. But this is also what makes it interesting.
So based on your own experience, you've built products, not just marketplaces, but other types of products. What would you say are some of the biggest myths and misconceptions for people who also want to break into product?
That's a good one. I think the biggest misconceptions about product management would be, the first one would be that in order to be a product manager, you need to have a technical background. And I have technical background, and you have technical background, but it doesn't have to be the case, and it's not mandatory. And I'll be cautious here and say that in some cases it can be a disadvantage, and I'll explain why. People think that in order to be a product manager, you need to have a technical background because you talk with engineers and this is your day-to-day. But I think product managers, they should understand the problem and they should be able to slice and dice it into pieces, and they should be able to read the data and analyze it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to understand the technology behind it or the code that is written. They should be able to think big and free themselves from all those constraints. And that's why I think it might be a disadvantage, because once you have a skill or you know something that other people don't know, you're wired to think in a certain way. And sometimes you see obstacles that other people don't see. And for me, I can talk about my experience. When I just started my role as product manager, it was hard for me to separate the how and the what. When I was considering solutions, I didn't want to try super hard solutions, and I thought they are too complex to do, but it wasn't I shouldn't have done that. I think product managers should free themselves from constraints, and they should be able to think big about the problem and the solution. They should have a conversation with the engineering team to see what's possible, but they need to think big. So that's the first misconception.
Yeah, I agree with you. I come from an engineering background. I think it served me well at some point, but at the same time, it was also negative because, especially at the beginning, I tended to default to what I was good at, right? Which is engineering, the how, and not spend enough time on the other parts of the business that I was actually hired for. So I totally agree with you. I also have to say that I really appreciate people who come from a military or engineering or backgrounds, because that sense of not giving up, working hard, and thinking about the team is really powerful. But I think also you don't need to be an engineer. Maybe there were other times, I remember, the products were more technical. There weren't really that many visual tools. And now we're seeing this total revolution of designers, business folks, marketers, people from support, ops, even from outside of tech that want to break into product. And I think it is possible. We are seeing those examples. And anyway, I think it's encouraging to hear from you as well that exists.
That exists. They have to have analytical skills for sure, but I think it might be an advantage not to come from a technical background, because if you have it, you need to turn it off. You need to know that it exists, and you need to turn it off.
Totally. So what would you say are now that some of those skills that serve you well as you grew in your leadership career?
I would say that skills that help me, the first thing that helped me is the ability to listen And this is obvious, right? Be product manager. This is the first rule in product management, that you have to listen. But you really have to listen not just to your customers. You have to listen to your managers and your employees. You have to listen to your engineers, to your peers, to your board and the founders. You don't have to know everything, right? As a product manager, you don't have to know everything, and it's not expected from you to know everything or to be the smartest person in the room. But the more information that you have, it can help you make better decisions. So the first thing is listen. I think the second thing is being adaptive. And you talked before about the military and and the fact that we don't give up, and that's true. But you also need to be adaptive, because life is not a linear progression. You will have ups and downs, and not every company that I worked at was a smooth sail. I happened to graduate twice in the middle of recessions, and so I had to adapt. I had to adapt and focus on the things that I'm good at and move on if needed. And that actually leads me to the third thing that helped me, which is looking at the long term. So I know when people are down, it's really hard to look ahead and see the horizon. But, and I can't stress this enough, but a few bad months or even a year is nothing compared to the success and fulfillment you can have if you think about the long-term value and focus on doing the right thing. And this is, by the way, this is true not just for me and my career. This is true for product management. I mean, don't think just about your one client today. Think about the millions of clients you're going to serve in a few years from today.
And I think that's especially relevant in a marketplace where you have literally millions of users, with buyers, sellers. So is there any specific process or framework that you follow to keep your product team aligned?
Yeah. So something that we do, which I think is pretty unique for tech companies and tech companies in general, and definitely companies at our size, is a weekly test sync, right? So at Fiverr, we have dozens of A/B tests running, concurrent A/B tests running every day. And in order to have an alignment and make sure that everybody knows what is going on, we have what is called a weekly test sync. This is a meeting for product managers, BI, data science, UX writers, customer care. So you can understand that this is a pretty expensive meeting, but it is worth it because, at this meeting, everybody knows all the initiatives that are running in production right now at the company right now. Anyone can raise their hand and comment and say what they think about this test, what was working for them in the past. There are many follow-ups meetings after this test sync to talk about other opportunities or options. We talk about what should we communicate and how should we communicate it. And having this, not just product management, but having this entire organization behind you and giving their perspective is also interesting. So, at the end of the day, when we have this meeting and people talk about what works and what doesn't work and what we should try, but the conversation also is more about the why. Why is this important? Why is the impact this and that? And why should we communicate this and that, and so on? And so I highly recommend it to any company that is product oriented like Fiverr.
So I want to double down on that, because I love the idea of having a weekly test sync with everyone to understand exactly what's going on and all the different experiments. But how do you make sure that we don't lose track of the long-term vision?
Mm. So long-term vision is something that, for Fiverr, our goal is to help anyone, anywhere, build their business, their brand, their dreams. We're looking at the new way to work, and we want to help anyone and anywhere to fulfill their potential and do high quality, creative, and innovative work, and to be able to sell it to anyone who is interested. And on the demand side, we want to offer businesses, big and small, to have services of top talent in the world at the tip of their fingers. And so knowing this and having this mental picture of where the company is headed and what is the future of the company. 95% of the freelancing business is still happening offline. It's the tip of the iceberg. It has changed a little bit during the COVID-19, but it's like e-commerce in the late 90s. We have a long way to walk until we get there, but this is our mission. And having this mental picture that everybody's looking at and everybody's aiming there, this is something that they think about in their stand-ups. This is something they think about when they create their roadmaps. And this is something they think about when they communicate what we're doing to, their peers, their customers, the world. Having this mental picture and us walking there in alignment is super critical.
What's crazy to me is that you guys have been around for 11 years. So in reality, that mission of democratizing work and finding people all over the world and not overcommitting to a full-time agreement is not really new. But now it's taking, more conscious and people are getting it. And I guess that probably COVID-19 has accelerated some of that mindset. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. And you're totally right. I mean, COVID-19 has its effect on the business side. If I can summarize it in one sentence, and you probably heard it before, but COVID-19 accelerated the transition, the digital transition, right? I can tell you what we saw at the beginning of the pandemic. What we saw is a drop of 2 weeks in our activity, and then after we saw this drop like anyone in the world. They saw this drop, but after that, what we saw is like a hockey stick for every cohort, every country, every category. We saw this hockey stick of going up. And we saw more people joining Fiverr. We saw people bringing their business online. We saw people that lost their jobs and they're super talented and now they offer their services on Fiverr. And we saw companies joining Fiverr to grow their business. And so definitely, yes, I mean, I can say that COVID-19 accelerated the growth of our company. And this is just the business side. From a company perspective, I mean, working remotely is something that happened pretty seamlessly. I mean, we're a company that is obsessed about working remotely and getting stuff done, but we're also obsessed about our community and helping them getting through the situation. And when we realized that, we said we have to work harder. We have to work harder in order to create value for our community, to create products and features that are going to help them. So we came up with features like offline to online, helping take the offline businesses online and build their presence. We built Fiverr Business, which focus on the business customers and creating and tailoring to their business needs. And I don't know if you've seen our Super Bowl commercial, But we also help organizations like the Four Seasons to Landscaping to get their business online and to grow their business with Fiverr. So all in all, like that's what we did. But I can tell you a year into this that it's not easy. It's not easy because, we are social creatures and we're missing those social interactions. In the past years, I hired many product managers that I haven't seen face to face. And, since we're social creatures, we're missing those moments where we sit in the office together and have a one-on-one conversation. We're missing those moments where you meet in the kitchen and talk about something. And we're missing those moments where we have those aha moments next to a whiteboard. So I'm hoping that we're going to get back to those pretty soon.
Me too. And in the meantime, is there anything specific that you're doing that is working well to keep the morale high and increase the kind of team collaboration remotely?
I think focusing on the mission, and everybody knows that what we do is important. Everybody knows what our goal is, and it's not just us. There are people that are depending on us. There are people that their job and their income is depending on us. I think that level of purpose and meaning can create really positive impact and influence on the day-to-day, and the motivation is high. It's super high.
I love that. I think that repeating that mission and making sure that we all understand that we're serving a bigger purpose than ourselves, even more important than ever now. It's a good artifact to keep the troops together. So last thing, as we wrap things up, I want to hear from you. What will be some words of advice for all the folks out there who are thinking about breaking into product or maybe just building products on the side? What would you say?
I would say product is not easy. And it's not as lucrative as you would think. You need to have you need to work in a process. There is a framework. The day-to-day is not easy. It's pretty hard. But if you enjoy the process and you look at the horizon and see where you're going to get, then go for it.
Let's go for it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Liron. It's been a pleasure.
Same here, Carlos. Thank you. Bye-bye.